1, 2, 3, 4.
Screen time, screen time, screen time, screen time.
It's my screen time too.
Screen time, screen time.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where we review the programming the other critics ignore, stuff made for kids. Find out what to watch for family movie night, what to avoid altogether, and what you'll want to watch alone voluntarily. I'm Katie.
And I'm Deborah.
And I have 2 kids, ages 9 and 5.
And I have 3 kids, ages 14, 11, and 11.
For this week's Screen Time in the News episode, we read a Vulture article from earlier this month with the headline, Kids Movies Are Saving the Summer Box Office. The in-theater movie experience is still trying to claw its way back since COVID, and after the actors and writers strikes last year, there was some worry across the industry that there wouldn't be enough splashy summer releases to help pull theaters out of their slump. According to this article, when it comes to movies for grown-ups, this summer's releases haven't been driving tons of people to theaters, but guess what? The real successes have all been kids and family movies. Maybe Hollywood is finally catching up to something we've known since we made our baby registries load these many years ago. Parents will pony up big bucks to entertain their kids. The article was published before the smash hit release of Despicable Me 4, but that movie only further proves the author's case. The article argues that Despicable Me 4 was able to make so much because it had the momentum of a regular schedule of new kids' movies released in theaters before it. Families saw If, Garfield, and Inside Out 2, and at that point they were trained to go to the movies every couple weeks, so Despicable Me 4 seemed like a given. I wanted to talk about this article with you for 2 major reasons. One, because it makes parents of young kids out to be the saviors of the movie business, and you know I like talking about what heroes we are. And 2, I wanted to get a sense from you about whether this summer has felt like a better one to you than last summer when it comes to movie going with your family and why that might be. We've definitely been reviewing a lot more movies in the theater this year than we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question for you is, how does it feel to be saving Hollywood?
It feels good, of course, because we want Hollywood to keep making movies. We want to keep going to the theater. There was a little bit of a scary trend during the early years of the pandemic when it seemed like, maybe streaming was just going to take over and people weren't going to go to the theaters. And it is so fun to see a big movie in a theater that's packed and like you hear other people's reactions, and like that is so different than watching something like in your basement by yourself. So it feels good, but it also feels a little bit tiresome and exhausting because like last summer it was all about the Barbie movie, and it just seems like business type pundits and real dollar sign entertainment types are always surprised when movies are popular outside of the demographic that they want to hit. They want to hit the 18 to 34-year-old male demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And like that cannot be the only audience that you make movies for. Like there's so many other people out there. And like I feel like this happens every couple of years. If there's a movie that is more for Black audiences that does really well at the box office, the pundits are surprised. If there's a movie for women that more than women go to, they're surprised. It's like if there's like family movies that a lot of people go to, they're surprised. It's like, when are you going to learn? So I don't know. It feels good, but tiresome.
Do you think it has ever been thus, or do you think this is a symptom of the superhero glut and how it really was true that every summer the giant superhero movie or occasionally movies were the real juggernauts? Was it just like a 20-year span where we got totally used to that being the case and people legitimately forgot that other movies could ever be successful?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was probably one really successful superhero movie, and then business people need to be safe with their investments, right? So they just want to repeat that success over and over again, which is why we're on the 4th Despicable Me movie. And
Exactly.
at the tail end of so many franchises because it's predictable.
Right. That mention of repeatability, we definitely haven't escaped that this summer. And so the answer to this question is obvious, right? Does this summer really feel different from last summer? Let me remind you of the major releases for kids last summer. We had Little Mermaid, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Elemental, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. What makes this list different from this year's list, Deborah? I'm leading your answer. The answer is there are way more sequels this year. And the two big studios, Pixar and DreamWorks, last year, they put out original movies, Elemental and Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, which I had totally forgotten even existed. And I remember thinking looked interesting. Looked interesting last year, but we didn't see it. Did you see it?
No, I did not.
And Illumination didn't even have an entry last summer. So this summer has been all about the sequels, including, I would argue, Garfield, which was not an official sequel, but we've already had some Garfield movies. Are your kids trained to go to the movies every couple weeks now? Do they expect it?
Well, that's definitely been our pattern this summer. And just because of the podcast, I don't think we would have been making a point to go to so many movies in the last month and a half or so on the opening weekend if it weren't for our more, I think we're trying to do like a more timely episode release to time it, but I mean everybody's been enjoying it. Something that is not included in your outline here is I wonder slightly about high temperatures and climate change.
Oh, if it's driving more people to cool theaters.
And bad weather, like I know if it's really hot out where I live in Minneapolis, the only options for like an outing that are fun are going to a pool or going to a movie.
The big thing here are those giant trampoline parks.
Oh, we have those. That's just not in our family. We don't enjoy trampoline parks.
Oh, I find them to be miseries as a parent, but
yeah.
But that's a really good
yeah,
point.
I think that is an option, but that's not really our jam. But last year the wildfire smoke was really bad, so I don't know. I would be curious if there's like a data scientist, a visual data scientist who can make me a graph on like movie popularity on bad weather weekends. That'd be interesting to see.
Or like if high temperature index correlates with high box office. That seems fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's been successful for the movie business, and we're glad for them. But how do you feel on a personal level about so many sequels this summer? Are you tired?
I mean, I've enjoyed everything that I've watched for the most part, but I am kind of hungry for like what the next Despicable Me is going to be. And I don't mean Despicable Me 5 or the sixth Minions movie. I mean, like when Despicable Me came out, it was like so fresh and fun, and everybody loved the Minions so much. Like, what is that next property? But also, maybe we could just do, and by we I mean people in Hollywood who make movies. Maybe the people in Hollywood who make movies could just make more smaller movies. And this is not my own original idea. I'm just parodying something I heard on the Daily Zeitgeist about the movie industry. Like they want big budget and then a big return on that investment, when they could take that big budget and spread it around to like maybe 10 different creators and create so many more opportunities for actors and production people. And then it wouldn't be such a gamble at the box office weekend. Like it's just personal finance 101, like diversify your investments instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. But I'm just a lady on my laptop in a closet in my basement. So what do I know?
That is such a lovely sentiment. I have to say, just on a personal complaint level, a couple weeks ago when the new Twisters movie came out, it was the only thing playing at my local movie theater. Like, I feel like we have a 10 to 12 screen movie theater. It's small by multiplex standards, but there are quite a few screens, and that was all that was playing.
Yeah, just make more movies.
Yeah.
They can be smaller budget movies. Like there are enough screenplays out there. There are enough actors. there are enough, what do you call the people who hold the...
Boom operators.
Yeah.
Do you think that all of those smaller movies are getting snapped up by streaming services now, to the extent that the larger studios almost don't get a chance at them?
I doubt it.
Yeah, even as I said it, I was like, that doesn't feel right. But I definitely agree with you. It would be lovely to have more choice, both for my kids and for myself, which leads me to a question about your kids. Do you find that they're more interested in original movies now that they're older? The sequels are always an easier sell for me and my kids because they're young and they just want more of the same thing that they love. So it's harder to convince them to go out and see an original movie or to get excited about the impending release of an original movie. And I'm just curious if that's something that you've seen loosening as they've gotten a little older.
Ooh, I think there is that desire for familiarity. And if it's a sequel of something they've enjoyed, they're way more likely to want to see it. Or if it's like something that's based on a book that they've read, for sure, they have more buy-in instantly. But here are some things that I do if they don't want to watch something. I have them watch the trailer. Like, just watch the trailer with me. And then usually that convinces them. That's enough to convince them because that's like the whole point of trailers.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I am just like, I have to watch it for my podcast.
Yep.
So like you don't really get a choice. This is what's on.
Yep, this is what's happening. All right, anything else on the article?
This was a fun one to read. I am glad that movie theaters are back. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they're honestly back. The Twister thing really gave me pause, but we shall see.
Yeah. So let's catch up a little bit generally. What are your kids watching and what are you watching with them?
We've been pretty dull around here. My kids are experiencing a resurgence in 2 Netflix series that are animated shows without any dialogue, which I always think is really fun. It also makes me wish that they would agree to go back to some of the early Looney Tunes cartoons that I grew up with.
Oh, yeah.
But I tell myself that this vibe is so similar, it's okay, and I shouldn't need for them to love exactly what I loved. So they've been watching Grizzy and the Lemmings again, and also Brown and Friends. And I like both of those shows well enough to be puttering around in the kitchen while they're watching them and not objecting. How about your kids?
Okay, our TV broke in the middle of a Young Sheldon episode.
Oh, no.
And so that's been broken for a few days now, which is making everybody sad. We do have one other TV, but it's like a much older, much smaller TV. And then yesterday, our internet was down for the whole day.
Wow.
Because there was a storm, like there were a bunch of trees and branches down, and some people's power was out, which would have been worse, but our internet was down. So luckily I watched what we reviewed last ahead of time, because otherwise I would have had to reschedule our recording session this morning. So we haven't been watching anything, but I will tell you that I am really looking forward to the Olympics.
Yes. Well, by the time you listen to this, I think we'll be midway through.
Did you know that John Williams wrote that NBC theme that I thought was just like a network jingle for the Olympics, but it's actually an American composer classic?
I can believe it. It's very catchy.
Yeah, so the answer for now is nothing, but the answer when you listen to this podcast when it's released will be Olympics. Olympics and more Olympics.
Well, go ahead and get your TV fixed. Geez, get on it.
We've got a repair person coming soon. Okay, what are you watching during your grown-up screen time?
We finally finished The Acolyte, the new Star Wars series, which was a real mixed bag. I would say half good, half nearly unwatchable, which tends to be the experience with Star Wars shows, for me at least. But more importantly, I watched A Family Affair on Netflix. Have you heard of this movie, Deborah?
No.
So it is not even Me December. It's a romance between Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron.
Oh, was it in the theater? I
I
don't know.
don't
Okay,
think
this
so.
sounds familiar, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, I think it's a Netflix only joint. And it feels like Nicole Kidman's answer to the Anne Hathaway movie that came out on Amazon earlier this
Oh,
summer, The
yeah.
Idea of You. But this is just like a much, much worse version, which makes
Oh
me sad for
no.
everyone involved because I find Zac Efron to be very charming. And I have liked various Nicole Kidman things. So I wanted it to be more fun and more winking than it was, which was kind of disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? What are you watching in your grown up screen time?
Presumed Innocent, we're watching weekly,
Is it
which is an
fun?
Amazon. It's pretty good. It's like a crime detective, Law and Order feeling type of show. It's decent.
All right. This is the
Yeah.
one with Jake Gyllenhaal,
Jake
yes?
Gyllenhaal.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like just recently we had all these things to watch, and now it's down to just one presumed innocent a week. We've got to find some new things.
I know. Do you ever feel like you need to engage in better record keeping to remember what it is? Because I go from feeling totally overwhelmed by the amount of things I'm supposed to be watching to just staring blankly at the TV like, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, and what I need to do is like treat movies like a show and just commit to watching a movie in 2 nights.
Yeah. Yep. That's been my way, and I've come to terms with it. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Because if there's a movie I want to watch, we just hardly ever watch it because we don't have like 2 hours to sit
Although,
down in front of the TV.
although Jay had a sleepover on Saturday night, and I was trying to stay up late to like kind of monitor behavior because he's still new
Hmm.
to the whole superhero thing. No, the whole sleepover thing. So we watched Twister, the original one from the 90s with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. I had never seen it before, Deborah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we watched the
Oh,
whole thing all the
funny.
way through. So the experience was novel because here's this classic movie that I had never seen. And also, we watched an entire movie.
Nice. Thank you for listening to this Screen Time in the News episode of It's My Screen Time Too. Next week, we'll be back with a review of Harold and the Purple Crayon. If you enjoyed our show today, please recommend the show to another friend that you think would enjoy it too. We love growing our community of parents for sanity in screen time. And if you never want to miss our up to the minute thoughts about screen time, head over to our website, myscreentime2.com, and subscribe. Tune in next time for more real talk about the movies and TV we watch with our kids because we have to and sometimes because we like to. Bye.
Bye.
Screen time. Screen time. Screen time.
My screen time.